Dogman is weird, one of the best-selling graphic novels ever, a spin-off to another series that lasted for decades, all with a story to tell with layers of complexity. So join me as we go through it all and figure out what makes it so special. Hi everybody, I'm here in a cabin in the woods. I found this nice secluded place for rental in the forest. The journey up here took a while, only sign of life was like a gas station pretty far out, ran by a scary looking guy, but let's not worry about that. Dogman has been an itch I've been trying to scratch for some time. I was always fond of the books that came before it from the same author, but I wanted to know what I missed out on due to the fact I'm 100% out of the age range for these things. Anyway, let's start. Two major gimmicks I gotta warn about this story. First off, all animals, regardless of species or whatever, seem to age at the same rate as typical humans. There are mentions of dog years and whatnot, but all life shares a similar life expectancy unless deliberately specified otherwise. The second thing of importance is the writers and illustrators, George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George is the main writer, Harold is the co-writer and illustrator. They live in the fictional city of Piqua, Ohio, and are better known as the masterminds responsible for the in-universe legends of Captain Underpants, the other iconic story made by Pilkey. Now, you and I already know Captain Underpants. The only reason I didn't make a video on that is because I'm better than that despicable potty humor. Yuck. But a major pillar of George and Harold's relationship and friendship revolves around their mutual love for storytelling, troublemaking, and most importantly today, making comics together. When they met in kindergarten, they began producing mountains and mountains of comics and the character Dogman under the little company of Treehouse Comics. Now, of course, they made some other iconic works like The Adventures of Oog and Gluck and Timmy the Talking Toilet, but in 4th grade, they went full force on Captain Underpants. After getting in serious trouble in their little domain of Jerome Horwitz Elementary School, the boys hypnotized their principal, Mr. Corrupt, to become Captain Underpants. Then the trio go on over a dozen stupid adventures involving time travel, apocalypses, crossbreeding, pterodactyls and hamsters, clones, making teachers and children alike lose their minds, their grandparents make out with each other at one point. I'm sure they were delighted to see that. Ultimately, like, they just went through a lot. They're getting a manga adaptation soon. Like, the American comic industry is dead, only manga remains. They even got George and Harold on the manga fad. It'll outsell One Piece, watch. But the point is, they're done with all their world-saving antics for at least a while. Now they're gonna sit back, relax, make some more Dogman comics. I give this introduction for the very, very brief heads up that first off, this video is not about Captain Underpants, and this setup gives us a new variable of anything we witness in today's adventures were canonically made by 4th grade boys, George and Harold. Everything. Their writing styles, tone of the world, and even context for subject matters is known when you look at George and Harold's lives. The majority of Dogman takes place in OK City. Only geographic knowledge we have is that it's at least kind of nearby Alaska. It's confirmed to probably be West Coast, near or in Hollywood and California, so that's safe to assume. Our story begins in probably like the first half of the 20th century, the 1920s if I were to guess. This is Grandpa. He's a terrible creature and does not deserve any fraction of joy he might ever receive, and that's his motive. After his parents gave birth to him and named him Grandpa to be named after Grandpa's father, Grandpa, he swore to leave his small town and never look back the second he got a car. Only then would he be happy. But he wasn't, so then his next idea was to get rich via a successful business to be happy. But he wasn't, so then his next idea was to get married, start a family, all in the hopes of being happy. He gets a wedding ring, ends up using it to propose to the love of his life, Grace, and now he believes that he's truly happy. But he wasn't. Grandpa then leaves his family, fully abandoning them with no second thought or warning, completely and entirely crushing his loving wife and dearest son, Petey. This is Petey, by the way. Jesus Christ, George and Harold. What could have possibly warranted this emotionally complicated storytelling to elementary school boys this early in their lives to be acting like, oh. We will get back to that shortly, but please keep this child abandonment in mind as we move forward. Grandpa's actions are responsible for a lot of what we're gonna see in the future. Around the same time, a little earlier than Grandpa's abandonment, this is Big Jim. He and his parents lived happily together, making cupcakes, doing whatever humanoid cat people do. They seem like nice people. So that same night that Grandpa found the ring, he was actually technically trespassing. There was a UFO that landed directly on top of Big Jim's house and just happened to give Grandpa the ring first, and then he like threw a note up in the air. It landed on Father Big Jim's head, and now they think that Big Jim's this prophesized savior of the universe. They look for the ring for a bit, unsuccessful, go to sleep. Suddenly, possibly the same night, a meteor crashes down on the family's home, leaving them with almost nothing but each other and the day clothing the parents decided to sleep in for some reason. They drive and drive for a place to stay. They get rejected by the church, and eventually they stumble upon a rental shelter thing where Big Jim meets a couple of friends, namely Clarence, Bailey, and Greg, the dog. The best buds who became best buds when Clarence stops some bullies from throwing rocks at Greg. Oh my god, this world sucks. The two friends make up the Junior Detective Club, where they solve kid mysteries, trying and failing to find the ring, and they just end up playing for a bit. Otherwise, a lot of Big Jim's childhood boils down to being a little guy with a big heart. His parents then die from a head-on collision. This is devastating for Big Jim in the hospital. The helper shows up for a little bit. By the way, this is the helper. This is the real person who's supposed to be like saving the universe. You know, they help out Big Jim. They're the helper. He's brought to a shelter, commits to a life of kindness and good intent, and most importantly, helping. So let's cut back to Grandpa's family. This is Petey. After his father abandons him, Petey hurts the end of his tail. It goes flat. He has to go to the hospital with his sickly mother, and then they get evicted immediately after, really only having a few belongings, such as a ukulele. They coincidentally go to the same shelter as Big Jim. They spend a good amount of time together. Shortly after, Petey joins the Critter Scouts. Generic Boy Scout antics are Boy Scout antics. One day, when mini-golfing, the scouts in Petey's troop all recreate Lord of the Flies. The first two go entirely mad, the less intelligent ones, Crunky the ape and Bub the crocodile. And then when their imagination escapes them, they face the consequences of their actions. The two rotten animals, along with Piggy the pig, blame Petey for their actions, and thus he is expelled from the Critter Scouts. Now, this was the second to last straw. The real one came from when his mom immediately passes away soon after. And even after the Critter Scouts get shut down after an anti-discrimination lawsuit following Petey's removal, he's lost any real reason to be good to the world that's wronged him so many times. And using the only thing his father's given to him other than disappointment, that being his intelligence, Petey builds highly advanced tech with evil intent, ultimately being arrested, serving proper time, and returning to a world that wants nothing to do with Petey after being a convict. And by the way, Big Jim also gets arrested. We have no idea why or how, but he's also in jail for a crime he never committed, probably Grandpa's doing. And he's happy to see his embittered old friend whenever he gets thrown in. Lots and lots of time passes between this and the modern day. We don't actually have full confirmation on how we got to the actual events of the story, but there's a few character transformations we need to keep in mind. That one little kid, Clarence, he becomes chief of the police. I'm just gonna call him chief from here. The helper most likely is a woman named Jeannie Lady, also referred to as Nurse Lady. And Greg the dog is seemingly adopted by Officer Knight and his girlfriend Alice. No idea why Chief didn't adopt Greg, but that's cool. We are now at book 1, the very original Dogman. See, Officer Knight and Greg work pretty well together. Greg's a genius with a weak, feeble dog body, but Knight's a kung fu combat warrior who's a freaking moron. He's so stupid. We will see both of half of them from this point onwards. So modern day, Petey, being the criminal mastermind he is, introduces his evil intent by forcing them to defuse a bomb. They fail. Greg's colorblind, they cut the wrong wire, and now they're both half dying. Greg's body is dying. Officer Knight's got like a brain hemorrhage or some shit. I mean, we got one useless body and two useful halves. Let's just stitch them together, says Nurse Lady. And so, Dogman is born. Real name, Gregory Knight, the world's greatest Dogman cop. He's lovable, kind, a dog, and very lonely after Officer Knight technically dies and Alice abandons Dogman to go pursue a new man and new dog. Like, I understand, but you're also a bitch. You should have at least helped Dogman out. You're a bad person. Now, Petey, he doesn't like the idea of his #1 op being a doggy and goes, I'm voiced by Pete Davidson. I'm gonna kill Dogman with my vacuum cleaner. And then he fails as it tries to vacuum the ocean, and then he's arrested again. Hooray! A few days later, probably, the Chief's just having an awful day and flips his little lid at Dogman until the mayor shows up. The mayor is grumpy. Petey's managed to somehow escape jail like 8-ish times, and everyone hates the Chief, but Dogman is a dog, so it's okay. Until the mayor gets the nefarious Dr. Scum to make a chief robot. Butter knuckles, dude. She helps Petey break out of jail with the invisible spray. Looking at it, I wonder how much real world people got to illustrate these comics. This job seems wonderful. I don't know who makes these comics. I'm assuming Scholastic still does. If you're looking for people to draw Dogman, you're looking at one right here. Hire me. Please hire me. Petey then escapes for like a 9th time. Chief gets fired and replaced by a chief bot. Mayor corrupts the town with all these evil, rotten stores that piss off Petey. Starts pantsing people all over town. There's a fight with the chief bot and blows up all those evil stores. The bot dies like an idiot. The mayor backs off like a little baby moron. Dogman arrests Petey for the 10th time. He gets arrested a lot, by the way. Like a lot. Dogman then exposes the mayor. They go to mayor jail. Mayor rehires the chief. Hooray. Hi there, Big Jim. Nice to see you in prison. He accidentally helps Petey escape once again. That nefarious cat starts removing literature and reading from the world, and it makes everyone stupid and dumb as rocks, except for Petey. And because of that, all of the people of the world have their teeth contort into one super giant tooth. It's a little too stupid for Petey's liking, so he gets depressed and starts to read, and then Dogman steals all of his books and starts passing them out, and cures the stupid, arrests the cat again. This is gonna change up soon. You have to trust me. I promise it's not this formulaic. Like, this is issue 1. A story has not been established. We are getting there. I promise. This is all exposition and setup. By the way, if you've made it to this point already, please subscribe. We're almost at 10 million subs, and you know, it would mean a lot if you just took the time to click that big red button. Again, almost at 10 million subs. You know, it'd be helping me out a lot. All right, thank you. The next story establishes the incredibly important item of living spray, and Petey uses it on some hot dogs, but then he's like mean to the hot dogs, so then there's like an army of them, like that one episode of Regular Show, and then, you know, the dog eat the food, food tastes good, dog eat food victory. You know the formula. The one thing I'm actually a big fan of in this book is how at the end of a good amount of the mini chapters, there's like punishment forms or behavioral letters written by the teachers of George and Harold. This is meant to be a parallel of the very same thing that happened to Pilkey, the author. His origin story is known that he kept getting yelled at for drawing in the middle of class to sit down and shut up and pay attention. The tone of a lot of this follows the whimsy and frustration the boys might have had in their everyday lives. It's a story a lot of creatives go through, actually. There's a lot of people with artistic talent who don't necessarily conform with the expectations of a classroom. It's nice to see that a younger generation is able to have this message within these books. It might be a little stupid to point out, but as I get older and the world gets more cloudy, it's truly nice to see stuff like this being shown and encouraged to younger audiences. It worked on me with the original Captain Underpants books, for example. I genuinely really love this. Anyway, book 2 is Dogman Unleashed. We're gonna be getting a little faster from this point on, but it's a more dedicated full story that begins to unravel true expectations. We get introduced to several more characters of moderate importance, like Zuzu, Dogman's love interest, who never actually contributes to the greater story. Wahoo! She's owned by the reoccurring news reporter, Sarah Hatoff. Just never had a moment to introduce her yet. She's in a good chunk of the books. She's actually very important. Hello, Sarah. And then the other new guy needs some context. This book celebrates the chief's birthday. Everybody gets some things. One of those things are super brain dots that can make you more intelligent, eating them daily. The other important gift is a new pet provided by Dogman, who goes absolutely nuts in a pet store. And as punishment, the workers give him like the evil fish. Ooh. Chief takes them home, and guess what happens? The freaking pellets go into the fishbowl. And now we got Flippy, causing bad vibes and crimes all over the city, while Petey escapes jail again. I lost count already. He's in and out of here on the daily. This time he escapes by making a paper copy of himself that eventually gets brought to life with the living spray. Paper Petey, Flat Petey. He's also bad. Flat as a character, flat as a villain. He is a one-off villain. And then the good guys go beat the bad guys with the power of outsmarting them, and then that's it. And to be entirely honest with you, it's an attempt to progress the story in a relatively simplified way to expand upon the story and universe. This exists. Dogman, the third one, A Tale of Two Kitties. George and Harold are officially in the 5th grade. I didn't mention it, but each book opens up with the boys talking about why they made the story they made or what they're doing in real life. It's cute. It reminds you that this is a spin-off to a very long-lasting series. They have a new teacher named Miss Chives who makes the boys read classic literature. The stuff at the very start of this video involving Grandpa and Petey was only written after this point. I can only pray and witness in horror of what these boys are going to do to these poor characters. This is Lil Petey. After escaping from jail again, Petey decides the only assistant or extra set of hands he can trust is himself. So he orders a cloning machine and makes a little version of himself that he can torture or something, and Lil Petey is marked as a mistake. Petey hates him, but may have a secret familial feeling for this little baby kitty cat. And he just looks like his dear old dad when he was a boy. Lil Petey likes being the voice of reason, a pure soul, and he loves drawing comics. That's really all there is to him. This is a good character to implement. So as Petey's struggling with his clone son, Dogman brings the remains of Flippy to the super awesome science center over there so researchers can study the intellect of the fish. Dogman then rolls in the dead fish corpse. He has a really bad habit of being a dog, and Flippy gets remade with all of his broken bones replaced. Cyborg fishy fish. Petey then gets fed up with his day-old newborn son and just abandons him. Gone forever. Goes to bed right next to Dogman's house. This is probably the best time to bring up the movie. Dogman, released in 2025. It's a very, very good adaptation and specifically recreates the events of Dogman's origins and this book most prominently, along with a surprise book that'll help us later. It's not identical, like Grandpa shows up, more on that later, but the biggest thing we want to look at is how Dogman's treated by the public. For Dogman to be this Frankenstein contraption, regardless of how valuable he is to the general public, makes his life pretty complicated. Like, to clarify, Greg the dog and Officer Knight were best friends friends. They were family. Officer Knight had that loving girlfriend who immediately abandoned Dogman in their time of need, going straight for another man who, again, George and Harold, are you two okay? Why did you write this character? This is awful. It shows that Dogman is partly struggling with the new world he's been brought to. He is a dog and a man, but struggling to keep up with both sides of his life as they collide. When Dogman finds little Petey and becomes the new parental figure of the kiddo, it's a big moment for Dogman's struggles. It's a new calling, and it makes Petey feel even worse, realizing that he needs little Petey in his life. He makes a machine called ADHD. It's not actually pronounced like that. It's like ATHD to steal his son back, much to Dogman's dismay. And as he panics, he fails to find little Petey anywhere across the city. Flippy is revived thanks to the exposure of more living spray. He then goes on full throttle revenge, used the living spray to bring the entire city to life, major war, and somehow Petey decides to show kindness for the first proper time. In this moment of desperation, willingly stalling to save everybody else, trying to do a proper good for the first time in a long time. It's crucial to note and the start of something that, hey, maybe there's still some good in him. So Flippy decides to take Petey to a volcano with the intent to drop him in. Only gets talked down by little Petey, writing him a beautiful story about eating 5 soups. Everybody's friends. Flippy goes to jail though. Petey doesn't go to jail. He escapes. And for the time being, Dogman will watch over and protect dearest little Petey for the foreseeable future. All is good, all is nice, and now we start doing whatever we want with the story. Book 4, Dogman and Cat Kid, is the start of the superhero narrative. Just making superhero antics ensue. Sometimes they just wear superhero stuff. I don't know, man. This time, George and Harold start reading East of Eden, reflective in the story being about the struggle of acceptance and free will. A journey of profound elegance as Petey disguises himself as a cat sitter while Dogman goes to work and negotiates the high honor of getting a movie dedicated for him. He's gonna be played by Ding Dong Magoo. Meanwhile, little Petey's having an identity crisis, in part with the 2 major paths in his life he can pursue. So just like his dad/clone, little Petey's very smart, but Petey's also looking to guide him toward a path of villainy, of the idea that he has no choice of where to go from here but follow the path of Petey. So he's stuck with his dad on a scheme to capture one of the actors, this lady, I'm not even gonna attempt her name. I think it's Italian, but nonetheless a skill issue on my part. The movie goes horribly wrong. It gets canceled temporarily. There's some technology to create the hot dogs from the earlier story as movie antagonists. They get turned evil on their controls because there's like a evil button on the control for whatever reason, but the movie studio costume department magically buffs everyone who wears their stuff. It's like placebo pants. Everyone becomes superheroes as a result, better known for the remainder of this as the Super Buddies. And then they beat the hot dogs, defeat this other living taco animatronic created for the movie who was in an earlier story. By the way, get ready for these things to come back. There is so many like big creatures. This taco guy shows up at least one more time. I think twice actually. We've seen him once, we will see him again. Bing bang boom, another day gets freaking saved, and oh my god, the evil children are reading Lord of the Flies. The next book is Lord of the Fleas, the story of when a bunch of kids get stranded on an island and start killing each other out of spite or boredom or whatever. That's where Dogman gets to go. I don't even think he can survive an island. He can't even eat a chocolate even. Good thing he doesn't have to be stranded or anything, because this is the book where the Critter Scouts show up from Petey's past. By the way, get ready for these covers to be literally clickbait. Dogman never goes to an island on this one. The formula is about the same. Petey meets this guy, Dr. Katz, who claims Petey's been thrown in jail 7 times, which can't be true actually, like maybe this jail, but he's been arrested at least 12 times by now. Doesn't matter, this seems like a small continuity error if anything. So Dr. Katz isn't even a doctor or a cat or alive, it's Piggy. Piggy from Petey's old Critter Scout gang. After he got expelled from the program for something not even all that major, like for all we know, the anti-discrimination lawsuit went beyond Petey. Maybe that was the final strike for them. Piggy and his other friends would also be removed from the program on account of there being no program. From there on, Piggy, Crunky, and Bob have all been plotting revenge, forming the fuzzy little evil animal squad, the Fleas, hoping for the day they get back at Petey for killing little Petey with a Robo-Brontosaurus they created and parked outside. Easiest outsmarting I've ever seen. Petey puts on a Dr. Katz costume, claims Piggy ate him, and now the police are trying to unhinge the jaw of a pig. So Petey, still wearing the suit, lies about needing to take little Petey to school to assure his protection. There is a robot mecha fight that takes up half this book that destroys the entire city, which sees the Super Buddies, the Chief, Sarah, and Petey locking in through this major battle over the smallest feud grown adults should be fighting over. Ultimately, little Petey's able to talk down and negotiate with Crunky and Bob to overthrow Piggy. Spray paint the Robo-Brontosaurus to look like a squirrel. Dogman gets hit with some growth spray, becomes huge, and then he's shrunk down back to normal. Piggy's crew managed to latch on to Dogman. The Fleas become fleas. Wowee, what a absolute literature masterminds. Book 6, Brawl of the Wild. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. Dogman's not even the main character anymore. It's entirely entirely because of Harold moving up to co-writer. Unfortunately, this type of silly main character makes it tricky to have your protagonist be anything other than a wacky looming force of chaos after that initial transformation into a dogman. Like, this isn't anything new in Pilkey's way of writing. A good number of the Captain Underpants books follow Pippi or Tippy or whatever you want to call him. In some books, Captain Underpants hardly shows up. It's about George and Harold versus the world, first and foremost. To me, at least, the protagonist alternates, but this has always been more about Petey than Dogman. At some point following the past books, the Dogman movie has somehow been completed, all while the fleas are still missing, and Petey, for the sake of little Petey, has been doing what he can to become good again. Not necessarily nice, but good. Just so he isn't in prison, just so he can actually spend time with his boy, like make up for the demons of the past. It's been hard for him, but he truly has a motive to improve himself. The police department receives 20 tickets to the red carpet premiere of the new Dogman movie, but the fleas sneak into a bank, rob $1 million and 91 cents, drop it off at Dogman's house. He's immediately accused of being the thief. That's when I know children wrote this. That's not even viable evidence. I'm sorry, he's not the sole suspect of this case. You already know that people can like imitate each other, or there's like magical technology. Get your shit together. This is lackluster writing, George and Harold. This is Maud. She's famously known around the community as the Dogman hating cop, and she drills the ideas of Dogman being unable to be a complete man or a complete dog, that he belongs in no territory, and now he is insecure. He's sent off to a dog prison by a biased Dogman hating judge. This system's so rigged. So it's complicated. Normally Dogman would be able to get out of this crisis through little Petey and ADHD, maybe with the help of Petey, but no, he's still in jail. Petey is still in jail. He easily has the opportunities to escape prison, but believing in self-betterment is more important. So Chief flies in, saves Dogman and the other prison dogs from dog jail that none of them belong in. They're all like falsely accused. The judicial system here is flawed. They make it back to the Dogman movie premiere, and now it's like a stop motion movie without Ding Dong Magoo. Bless up Ding Dong Magoo. As all of this was happening, Sarah and the Italian lady I forgot the name of are out and about looking for a fake Dogman that got the original one convicted. George and Harold, love you guys, but your writing's fairly predictable. Get your shit together. It's the fleas, it's the fleas, it's the fleas. At first, the movie goes all too well until it does not. Piggy puts some living spray on the screen, brings the claymation taco to life. This implies the living spray can create organic matter from light. I don't know if that means anything, but nonetheless, we should be concerned. And then, Dogman realizes he's not a dog or a man. He's a dog of a man, and he's a very manly dog. He eats the taco, and he looks like that. I feel disgusted for this being on the screen for too long. Also, the fleas are missing again. Whoa, I wonder where the fleas are. Let's put on our thinking caps. Where do fleas live? Dogman got the fleas. Dog, flea, Dogman. The next day, book 7, For Whom the Ball Rolls. Petey's been working off his little keister to be a better person for his clone son, and it's finally paid off. He's pardoned and splits custody with Dogman. Dogman gets weekends. All it took was a small prison riot, and that goes nowhere. And the fleas, they've been hopping from creature to creature, eventually landing on Big Jim. And Crunky and Bob are tired of Piggy. He's a dick. And they get Big Jim to flick him off his ear hole. These are the worst names I've ever read in succession. Piggy lands on a moth. His name's Daryl. Hello, Daryl. I like you, Daryl. Now, this is the last major book the Dogman movie adapts. Petey brings his daddy issues to his child. The foolish little kiddo decides it'd be a good idea to bring his grandpa back to Petey's life. That is not. He gets ADHD to abduct him, bring him to Petey's lair. It is the most awkward, discomforting, unnecessary confrontation of all time. And honestly, Petey handles this very well. Despite being forced to invite a man who he cannot forgive back into his life, he gives Grandpa a chance for redemption, mostly for his own son. He literally only does this because he abandoned little Petey a few books back, and he was forgiven, and it's only fair. Meanwhile, two major things are happening on the side. Dogman's working to improve his dog tendencies that are making him struggle on the job. He needs to start locking in and not eat food off the ground or chase tennis balls, leveling him to the typical capabilities of other cops. And then there's Dr. Scum. Yeah, remember Dr. Scum from the first book? He helped the mayor with the bot and being corrupt? Yeah, me neither. Okay, so this one just has a lot going on. There's just like 4 different groups doing their own things. Petey makes a huge caterpillar robot to fight Dr. Scum. They leave Grandpa at home. The Super Buddies are there. Piggy is manipulating Daryl to help him with robberies. And Big Jim is, oh my gosh, he is evolving. Crunky and Bub encourage the lovable purple freak to put on a cape. The biggest of Jimothy's. It's now time for Commander Cupcake, a superhero much in the element of Captain Underpants before he got his superpowers. An actual conflict is going on. Actual warfare and whatnot. Big Jim is more or less doing his own thing. Like he is eating cupcakes in the middle of an active road, and Dr. Scum just so happens to land right next to Big Jim, and he gets credit for all of his defeat. And then also happens to capture Piggy, who is just like trying and failing to get his own ring. Not the magical universe ring, like a mood ring. And then, when the cops ask if he knows where Crunky and Bub are, he scratches his head, and there they are. Just so happens to get all 4 of the major threats in 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Let's go home, everybody. Uh-oh. Grandpa robs Petey's home while they were gone, losing his proper chance at redemption. And to add salt to the wound, to make it hurt even more, he takes everything. He removes the oven to take it. Even the kitchen sink, every item is stolen, except for little Petey's comics. That's just sending a message. That's like actually evil. Maybe Grandpa could have been like trying to be nice because he bonds with little Petey and he knows like, oh, little Petey makes comics. I'll do this one thing for him. It doesn't matter. This guy sucks. That's so mean. But for the time, little Petey's gonna spend some time at Dogman's while Petey buys everything back at his awesome cool house that his awesome cool dad stole from him. Book 8, Fetch 22. George and Harold are moving up in the world. They have hit the 6th grade. But I think them moving on from that one teacher who made them read advanced books kind of backfired on them. This starts that one thing that I would argue is the worst part of Pilkey's writing style. Okay, to clarify, I thought this as a kid too. Like, this is not an adult thing. This is something I've grown up thinking. These books introduce just a few too many characters, you know? And like, they're only 200 or so pages per book. It's not horrible in Captain Underpants. Like, these characters who actually return or remain prevalent get a consistently good amount of character and screen time. Like, random teachers will get dedicated arcs where they are the villains. It's not fantastic, but it's also not awful. But it's so weird in Dogman, especially from here on. There's straight up just too many characters competing for limited screen time. So much so that a little later on, the books open up with giant character sheets going on. Like, these are the characters we care about in this book. If you don't see Nurse Lady, she is not prominent in this one. I don't know. It's fine. We're gonna start seeing characters returning more frequently. Grandpa is in prison. Bunkmates with Big Jim. And Petey's got a house full of house stuff again. And now little Petey's back to alternating custody. Dogman is the fun house. Petey is home. But at this time, little Petey makes a discovery, specifically that Flippy is innocent. Yeah, apparently the super brain dots that get into his system can cause extreme anger problems, and so he's gonna be given a full pardon. And the villain of the day is known as the Fair Fairy, an elderly woman who worked in children's entertainment on a TV show until she snapped, lost her cool because the idea of fairness had become incomprehensible nonsense. So as she's walking around the city aimlessly, distraught about losing her job or whatever, there's just some talking tadpoles. That's it, talking tadpoles. They show up, they think she's their mom. 22 tadpoles now exist under her custody, and Dogman and the police force are manually going across the city to get rid of the super brain dots. There's an incident where a wheelbarrow full of them land into a tadpole pond and make all of them telekinetic. Oh! But what about Petey? What are they doing? Well, they're visiting Grandpa, who knocks out his kin with sleeping powder. Swapping places with Petey? That's the escape method. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm really trying to save my thoughts for the end, but I do think from here on is where the books completely forget what they're trying to do. I truly think these books are less compelling. I just wish they had a little bit more unexpected stuff, like the relationship complications between all the cat characters. Then again, you know, the age demographics for these books are like ages 7 to 10. I really wish the algorithm let me do whatever I want with no consequence. I'd be talking about Scott Pilgrim or doing Pokemon card pack openings or whatever. This is Molly, the nicest of the tadpoles, the only one who's not super evil. The rest assist the Fair Fairy in taking over the city. There's a single fight that lasts 100 pages where the entire cast just fails to win here. Ultimately, the fight ends when after Grandpa tries teaming up with the fairy, it fails. Lil Petey and Molly trick all the tadpoles to go back underwater with an antidote so none of them are psychic. And Commander Cupcake once again shows up. Like, that don't get me wrong, love Big Jim, but he is here. He doesn't do anything. There's a magical evil tree here too, because it wouldn't be a Dogman adventure without a giant monster of some sort. And this is where I want to talk about a spin-off, Cat Kid Comic Club. See, Flippy decides the next step of his life is gonna be as a father to the tadpoles that are now frogs. All of them are frogs except for Molly. The telekinesis has forced her to not grow legs. It's like when young kids spend too much time in those like walkable toys and there's stunted muscle development. This is cute. Almost nothing of substance here, but it's something. Basically, during little Petey's free time, him and Flippy teach the tadpoles the art of comic making, storytelling, art design, coming up with ideas. This is great. There's 5 of these books. There's a frog named Melvin in the book, probably in reference to Melvin Sneedly in the Captain Underpants books, this one kid that George and Harold hate in their class. This is a fun, educational way to convey how to create works, how to take inspiration, how to get the ball rolling. I more or less skimmed it, and I think this is cool, just as much as it's not meant to be narratively driven. More so, a cute way to teach and inform younger kids to learn the arts and improve their crafts. Each tadpole making their stories have different styles they work with. It is a well-made little piece I don't have any problem with. And as far as I'm concerned, this shows us what everyday life is like outside of the weekly fight for the city at the end of each of these books. We take those. We take this. But let's move on to book 9, Grime and Punishment. George and Harold actually hit it big at a mall, as in like the start start of their future. It's pretty much confirmed in the good future timeline of Captain Underpants. George and Harold are successful artists of some sort. They have established careers and likely go into a comic empire. They retell a story where they start selling comics at the mall. The cops get called in on them, very happy with what they're doing. They gladly buy the comics and start telling the city about their little stand in the mall. Like, you gotta recognize too that George and Harold's home in Ohio has almost no adults that are good people. It's like George's parents, Harold's mom, Miss Ribble after they hypnotize and lobotomize her like Foxy Loxy at the end of Chicken Little. Do you guys remember that, by the way? How did her parents respond to that one? Like, at least Miss Ribble was an evil old woman. This was just a middle schooler. I never got that. This is the new mayor. The new mayor hates Dogman. He's fired, just out of a job, and everybody's devastated. In order to stay around, he puts on a cat helmet and just hopes that he doesn't get found out. Along with that, Grandpa makes a new invention called the motor brain because, friendly reminder, he's casually a genius and simply chooses to be an asshole. Putting on the helmet simply hulkifies people, amplifies their qualities. Not much else to it. Otherwise, by the way, in case you were wondering how people keep getting in and out of prison without issue, Big Jim literally has a personal entrance and exit with no repercussions. He just goes back to jail for free food and housing. Not even much of an issue for him. He's a unit. Nobody's gonna challenge Big Jim. He's a pure soul as much as he is a brick shithouse. Dogman becomes Catman. Grandpa becomes the incorrigible Grud. How do you say that? Grandpa becomes the incorrigible Crud. And little Petey wants to know where his grandma is. You're 9 lives too late, buddy. She's 6 feet underground. This is the first time Grandpa has a moment to reflect. Sit down and talk to someone. Sarah starts interviewing him. He confronts himself about his self-pity and possible depression. Still not enough to calm him. He uses living spray. This time, the big enemy of the city is going to be the 3rd largest lunch bag. It drinks some spicy nuclear fluid, runs over to the swamp over there where Flippy and the tadpoles are having late night classes. They defeat the bag, and then they stop Grandpa Crud. And here's where 3 endings occur. First off, Dogman saves the mayor's life when the lunch bag burns his house down. He gets his job back. Then Big Jim and Grandpa will head home, but Petey has a very good and important moment. He properly comes up, goes to his dad, and forgives him. And this infuriates Grandpa. This is actually how they defeat him. But this is a moment for Petey to recognize that he is better than his father ever will be. It's genuinely a heartfelt moment that made me recognize how far these characters have gone. And it's not a situation where he's gonna try and improve the relationship. It's Petey confronting a man he once hated for never being there for him. He recognizes that he doesn't have to continue interacting with his father in a positive way, really doing it for his son just as much as for himself, that he needs this. And this is fantastic. I'm proud of Harold for having a proper outlet to express his frustrations in his work. I can only imagine how these conversations between George and Harold about what to add to the narrative are like. Also, why was there a Grandpa Death Egg on the cover? Why did you make me think this was gonna be a space battle? I don't know. I think that would have been kind of cool. They go to space later on, but this should have been the one in space. Book 10. I'm guessing due to their rapidly developing fame, George and Harold stopped putting these opening interludes in their work to come off as more professional, and to be fair, it's like a legitimate thing to alter in their work. It could be an indicator of them locking in and taking their career more seriously. I mean, regardless, their art level is significantly improving. This is incredible work. They have halftones and everything. At this point of their lives, they are prodigies. And in fact, most of the stuff at the start of the video only starts getting introduced here. It goes a long way in showing how good the duo are getting at making this stuff. And with that being said, this is like the easiest book to cover. In fact, most of the remaining ones are prequel stories along with the fairly simple stories. Dogman gets a dog cone after an injury. Grandpa uses Big Jim's kindness to his benefit. Grandpa brings some sippy cups to life and makes them huge. The good guys have the hardest time taking them down, being defeated by a mecha Molly that she's mech now. And Petey is like deliberately showing that he's reforming himself with a nice sweater and all. That's it. Except for like Chief. He, out of everyone, finally gets more screen time and layers to his characters. Starts properly becoming a thing with Nurse Lady. And that's the end of this book. The next day, book 11, 20,000 Fleas Under the Sea. Those dogs that were in dog jail with Dogman like half a dozen books ago got pardoned a little while back, and they accidentally freed the fleas from flea jail, along with some brand new pals named Mike and Ducky. So all 6 of the new fleas become a friendship crew. Everybody is happy except for Petey. His house got destroyed in the last book, and he's kinda homeless. Chunky churling chipotle dude. Okay, time out. If you have a fear of holes or like remote yucky body stuff or like any body or hole related stuff, timestamp warning. Like, I've been dodging all the remotely icky, sticky, yucky stuff so far. I cannot do that here. Here is a timestamp. Okay, 3, 2, 1, we're back. Daryl's uncle is a genius. He starts making a magical flying submarine that can make anyone shrink or grow. And Piggy tricks all the fleas to start harming and fear-mongering the public with it. Oh no, who's gonna deal with that? Frickin' everybody and Zuzu. I have to note Zuzu independently because she's not a character, she's a set piece. Everybody's in the submarine and Piggy shrinks it to be so tiny that that the digital copy I pirated couldn't even show the size they're being shrunk down to. I literally can't read that. He gets out of the submarine and it is not only broken, it also gets so tiny it lands in one of Piggy's pores in his sweat gland. And then they have to not only swim in it, but they also have to fight a mite until all is right. And then everyone except for Bub and Mike manage to exchange the lives of all of their friends for some pies. And then they get bigger, and then they beat the hell out of Piggy, and then shrink him into like a hamster equivalent, unaware of the moral complications and suffering Piggy will have to endure, living off nothing but his own filth and hamster pellets. This is unironically a fate worse than death and probably someone's fetish. But you know what? All the nice characters, all the friends, everyone except for Big Jim, they all come together, rebuild Petey's house, everyone's doing well, and now the giant bugs are living among the populace, going back to that pond that keeps them going, like every book they end on in a forest walk. I couldn't tell you why. By the way, look at this ending page, look at the water reflections. How did George and Harold make this page? These are perfect water reflections. The characters are glowing with perfect gradients. How is this possible? How did they do that? Are they artistic wizards? What sort of ritual did you perform to make perfect flip-flop noise reflections? Book 12, The Scarlet Shredder. Super buddies are getting a little bit crazier. Notice how I didn't mention Dogman at all in the last book. He's not even relevant anymore. Nurse and Chief are getting married. Everybody's here except for Ding Dong Magoo. I miss him every day. Dogman's the best, man. He's the best. He's a good boy. He's Dogman. And while Chief's on honeymoon, whoever catches the Chief hat will become Chief while he's gone. And wouldn't you know it, it's caught by Mog, the dog-hating cop. Aw shit. She's gonna work alongside the judge who hates Dogman as well, and not only keep the position of Chief by arresting Clarence, the former Chief, but send Dogman to jail for infinity. By the way, he's red now. He's red because he got beamed by a skunk and doused in tomato juice. The villain returning now is Dr. Scum, quite literally using AI as a way to take over the world. Like that is actually the plot, determining he needs Petey in order to take over the planet, offering him an ultimatum. He can save Dogman and probably get Clarence back to the position of Chief, and in exchange, he'll have to return to villainy under Dr. Scum's leadership forever and ever, and maybe even a little bit after that. And after robots and AI are fully implemented into society, Dr. Scum wins. That was his plan. Just fully make people stupid with AI and tech and whatever. Dr. Scum's robots then decide to overthrow without his control. AI takeover. Who could have predicted that? Oh no. And now the Super Buddies get updated, upgraded, it doesn't matter. Easy sweep. Petey returns to good voluntarily, and then George and Harold flex their artistic skills as they've always been doing. I like this one if only for the fact the big mech used has a cool design. In fact, apparently it was designed with the intention to recreate AI art and how it isn't constant, how it's a plausible threat that needs to be taken seriously or removed with legitimate precautions. I don't need to get into it, but it's pretty adamantly anti-AI. Book 13, Big Jim Begins. This is a prequel book. More than half of it goes over stuff I already talked about. And fellas, I haven't been entirely honest with you. Across our entire discussion, I've made it obvious that Grandpa's actions in the past and present have been responsible for the actions in which our cast exists through. How everyone befriends each other, everyone meeting each other, Petey's rise to villainy, his anguish of the world, millions of dollars worth of damage, and irreplaceable emotions obliterated due to his decisions. We need to reevaluate the relationship between Big Jim and Grandpa. Even more than his own son via abandonment, Big Jim has suffered the most out of any character due to this elderly man. It was his actions that made his family falsely believe Big Jim was destined by otherworldly forces for greatness. Big Jim's not the chosen one. It's the helper. It's probably Nurse Lady. It absolutely is. Look at both of them. When the UFO came flying down over Big Jim's house, a magic eye man with hair shows up and questions the trespassing Grandpa. He asks Grandpa if he knows the whereabouts of the helper with the intention of saving the universe, that the helper needs some kind of ring to accomplish whatever they do. Grandpa lied about knowing this child. He stole the ring. He threw the letter and he sent that family off on their quest. He has caused, used, and abused the kindness he indirectly caused Big Jim, and it goes further. Grandpa was the one responsible for the head-on collision that led to the death of Big Jim's parents. Grandpa is an awful man. Since birth, he has done nothing but hate monger and pollute the world around him. He's brought nothing but pain for his own selfish desires. It was through his striving of joy, his inability to parent, and walking against the uphill that he has failed as a man. He is a coward, one that's haunting the narrative that lives upon this cast. And now, in this book, Big Jim and Grandpa are superhero partners as Commander Cupcake and his sidekick Sprinkles. You just wait. You just wait until they both put the pieces together. The confrontation that'll come when all of this is dropped on them at once. Will Big Jim be able to forgive and move on? Will Grandpa be able to move on and grow from his old ways? Only time will tell. Beautiful. Absolutely a modern literature classic. Harold, please go to therapy. Can you imagine the genuine bewilderment of getting through a dozen of these kids' books only to find out it all comes back this way? How intertwined the cast is? is, I can't believe it. I'm truly at a loss of words for any of this. Okay, whatever. This time around, the city's under attack by some cute aliens that want to make everything cute. These are the worst villains. And the city's just a little bit too quiet, you know? Like, where is all the good guys? Well, there was a party. Everybody went. They had some cake laced with sleeping potion stuff. They all went to Betty Bye Land, everyone except for Dogman, because it was probably like a chocolate cake and he couldn't have any. But like, just wake him up. If this is a planetary threat, why the hell are they not like slapping Crunky in the face to wake him up? ADHD is a robot. How is he asleep? Space cuties from space just want to make everything cute, take over the world, bad vibes and bad times, all while Big Jim's trauma dumping to the man responsible for 90% of the trauma and a dog. And finally, the most recent book, number 14, Big Jim Believes. Very easy recap. Not only is it more backstory stuff, it's a simple continuation of the last book, fighting more of the space cuties. Big Jim, Dogman, Grandpa, Little PD, ADHD, and Molly all go to space to fight the space cuties. I'm being dead serious. That is the entire plot. That is the entire thing. Grandpa only went again as an attempt to get more fame. Everyone else is doing it for the fact the world is in risk. Just a very simple collection of fights, making the mothership self-destruct. The end is ended and done. Mid-tier adventure. They all get cuffed. They all get cutified. Ate some cupcake cures. Everyone except for Grandpa. He's stuck in a tiny little freak form, realizing that if he didn't go on that adventure, if he stayed in jail, he probably would have died, as a part of the ship landed directly where his cell is. It's a complicated moment for him, but it could point to him finally getting proper redemption. Perhaps Petey will return to some capacity, but for the past couple of books, he's been working on something in private. And as of now, that's everything. Dogman, Dogman, Dogman. What can I say? Am I surprised? Not really. Am I shocked? Yeah, absolutely. George and Harold made something tonally and contextually expected based on their backgrounds and sense of humor, and yet they've moved beyond that point. Their journeys across their youth, their internal struggles, and their perceptions of the world and vulnerability against a hostile community allowed the boys to create a work of fiction that emphasizes togetherness, unity, betterment, recognition of failings, and the idea that love is capable of creating an infinity of more things that hate could ever aspire to destroy. Dogman is a story about two broken halves reformed together into something greater, that we are all incomplete until we all address what brings pain in our lives and climb the mountains necessary to overcome our past. To note that a journey is never complete, but it could always be better. George Beard and Harold Hutchins. Your line art is impressive, you elegantly convey action through your work, and your storytelling capabilities are inspiring. I look forward to seeing the two of you continue to innovate upon the proven formula and grow as powerful as your characters have to millions of hopeful readers. Please continue to light up an ever-darkening world. You both have bright futures ahead of you, and Harold, again, please go to therapy. You have a lot of emotional baggage. It's cool if art is an outlet for you, but I'm very concerned for your well-being. As for future Dogman stories, I think once Big Jim and Grandpa have the prophecy stuff involving Nurse Lady taken care of, the story might be done. To be fair, these things are probably printing a ton of money, but I'm curious what's coming next. For all we know, the series could be coming to a close. There's not even any remaining characters worth giving attention to. Like maybe Piggy and Molly could even implement Sarah a little more. That's kind of it though. Not feeling confident about Ding Dong Magoo returning, but it'd be nice. And beyond that, it's nice to see Dogman become a bit of an icon. I can imagine it getting a little more attention by nostalgic fans in the future. I wouldn't be shocked if this is more popular than Captain Underpants, kind of taking the mantle. It's been cool to see it grow and evolve. It's funny knowing Pilkey's works are dominating the greater literature scene. I went to a couple of bookstores recently, and lo and behold, there's Dogman shrines at Barnes & Noble. Dogman got a musical, that seems fun. It got this game called Mission Impossible that came out more recently, that sort of loosely adapts just every component into a separate thing. It's like a superhero game, you know? It's like Insomniac's Spider-Man or the Arkham games. They have the source material and do whatever they want with it. Like there's no major point in the books where the fleas and Grandpa and the hot dogs are working together while the mayor's also friends with Dogman. Again, treat it like a game adaptation of a comic, where this is just a version of the world. Even then, the story's literally just like the fleas take over the key to the city, the classic super buddies gotta go stop them, save the tadpoles while you're at it. That's it. Are the kids' books not for me? I mean, yeah, I thought that was pretty obvious. I've grown out of them, but I had fun. See, one thing I'm very adamant about is reading. You fellas know me. I love reading, but truthfully, if this can get kids to read, I don't see an issue with them. The themes are positive. Most of the books aren't going to stunt brain development. Earlier books had more spelling issues to illustrate how these kids wrote the things, but I think that was all changed to mitigate the concern about kids adopting the works like serialously. One of the books has an extended collection of pages where Petey is just yelling at the viewers to read to their cat, and I love that. The best comparison I can immediately think about is how Bart Simpson is artistically gifted, but his school system kind of prevented him from conveying his talents. Pilkey was much on the same boat. George and Harold just just as much. One thing I'm fond of is the stance these books take and the encouragement to be creatively ambitious. These books tell you that you're making something of proper artistic value, to be good people, and to take genuine writing advice where need be, and I cannot take that away. That is part of the identity of these books, and I truly stand behind much of what is being expressed among them, both in inspiration and intention. Regardless of your thoughts on the greater franchise, it's undeniable that there is at least heart in this era where that feels less and less common in larger scale creative works, and that at the very least motivates me. Anyway, book 15 is supposed to come out in November 2026. I'm not gonna cover it, probably not, unless this does really well, but until then, that's it. Fellas, thank you for watching until the end. If you haven't already, please check if you're subscribed or not. Check out the guild statistic. It goes a long way. I got merch, I got a gamer subs code, and that'll do it. Now I just have a nice and cozy little place to hang out with for a while. Would watch a movie, but the only thing I could find is this ominous VHS that says watch me on it. I don't think I will. The only time I listen is when I'm in your mom's room. She's a nice woman. It'd be rude to disrespect. What was that? Oh, it's not a cabin in the woods. It's the cabin in the woods. Like the movie. Wow. I get it. That's cute. I'm dying tonight.